listening to the Art of Homeschooling podcast, where we help parents cultivate creativity and connection at home. I'm your host, Jean Miller, and here on this podcast, you'll find stories and inspiration to bring you the confidence you need to make homeschooling work for your family. Let's begin. Hey there, my friend, and welcome to a new episode here on the Art of Homeschooling podcast. Here's a little story for you. I was talking with a homeschooling mom once who shared, I'm considering homeschooling next year. This wasn't the first time she'd considered this path for her family. And the last time she thought about homeschooling her two kiddos, she did hours and hours of research. She wanted to practice homeschooling during the summer, but it didn't go very well. Her son resisted the lessons and wanted to play instead. Her confidence started to wane, and this lovely mom began to doubt that she could really be a homeschooling mom. She thought she needed to find the best workbooks and curriculum for her kids. However, what we discovered through our conversation together was that her son was a hands-on learner. Workbooks and table work were just not the right fit for him. Sometimes what we think homeschooling isn't it at all. There are a lot of misconceptions about what homeschooling looks like, what it is, and what it isn't, how it works, what works, and how to make it sustainable and enjoyable. When my husband and I were first considering homeschooling, it seemed so huge and daunting even. And that was over 25 years ago, maybe even over 30 years ago at this point. So I get it. There's a lot to consider. Yet when you break it all down and handle each consideration one at a time, you can begin to develop a fully informed decision. And from that place of deeply understanding what homeschooling actually is, you can and will move forward with confidence no matter what you choose. Homeschooling is less about what you teach and which curriculum you buy, and more about engaging with your children and being willing to be flexible. Learning is dynamic, it's fluid, flowing, and sometimes even outright messy. And when your children learn at home, which they are already doing in case you didn't know, because children are really learning all the time, it's such a wonderful opportunity to strengthen your family bonds. You get to watch curiosity flourish and grow or be rekindled. You get to take part in cultivating a lifelong love for learning. Homeschooling is way more than checklists, benchmarks, and the right curriculum. It's different from school, and it's not about being a perfect parent either. So let's see if we can bust some myths about homeschooling so that you can take the first step with courage and confidence, or continue on from wherever you are on your homeschooling journey. So here is myth number 1. A lot of people believe that homeschooling means recreating a classroom at home. Actually, no, it doesn't. And this is really good news. Homeschooling won't look like what happens in a brick and mortar school. It really can't. Instead, this is an opportunity to expand your view of what teaching and learning are. That's what happened to me when we started our homeschooling journey. I had been trained as a classroom teacher, and there was a lot I had to unlearn and adjust when we began our homeschooling journey. Children, really all of us, are learning all the time. And it's not just in a classroom, not just during lessons. And all that time that our children spend away from us when they go to school, we get to take that time back. It can be such a relief not to have to be out the door every morning at a particular time. Homeschoolers get to slow down and embrace simplicity in the day. If you homeschool, you get to do something totally unique and customized, adventurous, and connecting. There is quite a bit of freedom afforded to homeschoolers, and I encourage you to toss that idea out that you need to pretend your home is a classroom, because you don't. Embrace what you have, who you are as a parent, and who your children are as individuals. Myth number 2, homeschooling is a full-time job. Or myth number 3, homeschooling means I get to just chill at home. Neither of these are true. Homeschooling doesn't have to be a full-time job, but it does require a good deal of energy on our part as the parent. We learn to observe our children and bring them enriching learning activities that are engaging. Now, I want to make the clarification that parenting is definitely a full-time job, but homeschooling parents are really facilitators of learning. So it helps to have a simple plan that's customized to your family. It's not realistic to think you can just purchase a one-size-fits-all curriculum and you're good to go. So while we want to set up healthy, fun, hands-on, engaging learning moments for our children, neither do we want to overwork as homeschool parents or neglect the holistic needs of our children. There's definitely a healthy balance to achieve. Keeping daily routines and keeping the lessons simple and doable is really the key. And then in that simplicity, teachable moments can organically arise. Inviting activities such as reading together, practicing drawing with sidewalk chalk outdoors, telling stories with puppets or dolls, watercolor painting, and molding clay will bring the learning to life. Homeschooling requires us to be present and prepared, but also flexible and intuitive. It is a balancing act, and when the balance is optimal, our lessons will be memorable, spark interest, bring joy, and flow with ease. Myth number 4, being a homeschool parent means I should always be ready for each lesson every day, like classroom teachers. Know that you will have days when you feel overwhelmed and unprepared, and that's okay. Homeschoolers have good days and bad days, just like teachers in a classroom, actually. We'll learn as we go, and so will our children. And one of the beautiful benefits is that we get to be present to watch our child's learning unfold. A second benefit is flexibility with the schedule. Struggling on a Wednesday morning with dirty laundry, a tantruming child, and a sniffy nose, you can always adjust your lesson plan for that day and everything will be fine. Or build in more field trips and days off as needed. You would be amazed at how much unexpected learning happens without you even doing anything. Think of you and your kids driving down the road, and all of a sudden your first grader reads a word on a sign that you drive by. Or your kids spontaneously search for all the books you have about birds because they saw a new bird at your bird feeder outside the window. Ultimately, homeschooling is not about you suddenly becoming a superhuman. Take it one step at a time and enjoy the journey. Myth number 5, homeschool kids don't get their socialization needs met. Oh, this is so not true. Every homeschooling family I know has actually too many opportunities for socialization. As homeschoolers, we actually have to learn to say no sometimes. Over the past almost 30 years, and as a homeschooling family ourselves, my experience in the field of education is that folks who are unfamiliar with homeschooling think socialization is going to be the biggest challenge, when in fact, it's the opposite. Children enjoy playing and learning with other children, but they also like interacting with adults. And we don't need to make this happen every single day. The truth is that most homeschooling children have a healthier socialization experience than those children who spend their days in school with same age peers all day long. So what does this look like? Playgroups, homeschool co-ops, one or two or three other homeschooling families that you can gather with one day a week, classes at museums with or other cultural institutions, hikes with friends, game days with grandparents, sleepovers with cousins, classes even where a group of homeschooling families get together and hire a teacher for a small group. The possibilities are plentiful. So seek out the homeschooling groups or families in your area to discover what's available. What social opportunities are there in your area for playing with, getting together with friends? So taking the first step, homeschooling is about having a simple, doable plan, being present with your children, and showing up with love, inspiration, and flexibility. You can do this. You can make it work if you choose to. Dr. Martin Luther King said, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. If you want help with those first steps, the place to start is by observing your child and matching the curriculum to where they are right now. Our Ages and Stages guide can help with that. Discover the wonders of each stage of learning so you can bring your children exactly what they need, let go of your anxiety about what you should be doing, and homeschool with more confidence and ease. You can get the guide. It's free at artofhomeschooling.com/ages and stages. Thanks so much for joining me for this episode. And if you want to have a look at the show notes, go to artofhomeschooling.com/episode 165. That's all for today, my friend. But here's what I want you to remember. Rather than perfection, let's focus on connection. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode of the Art of Homeschooling podcast.